Hey, hello, everybody. I'd like to call the Library Board of Trustees for the City of Palm Springs meeting to order. The time I have is 5:31. And Janine, would you mind doing a roll call?
Sure. Ed McBride.
Here.
Craig Borba.
Here.
Juanita Garner.
Here.
David Norgard.
Here.
Oh, Al Jones is in the, hold on, here he comes. Gotta get him promoted to panelist. Here he comes.
Okay, can you see me now?
Yes, perfect timing.
Oh, good,
Al
good.
Jones is here.
Sorry, I just walked in.
You made it perfectly.
Oh, I have to also do this to my eye, by the way. It's hot rice. Anyway,
And the agenda was posted on or before May 12th.
You got Al as present, right?
Yeah.
by the tip of my tongue or whatever the phrase
There,
is.
the chinny chin chin.
Oh, there it is. There you go.
There you go. Okay, at this point, we reserve time for public comment. Do we have anyone wishing to make any public comment? Jeannie?
Do you want to go ahead and do acceptance of the agenda?
Oh, sorry.
The page, it's always in the weird spot.
Can I have a motion
I'll
to
move.
accept the agenda?
I'll move.
Second. Roll call?
Ed McBride,
Yes.
Craig Borba,
Yes.
Juanita Garner,
Yes.
David Norgard,
Yes.
Al Jones.
Yes.
The agenda is accepted.
Thank you. We now set aside this time for public comment. Do we have anyone wishing to make any public comment? Jeannie, did you see?
I have one person watching. He usually just watches. You can raise your hand if you want to give public comment, but I don't think he normally does.
Okay.
And I didn't have any call-ins or write-ins.
Well, thank you. Can I have a motion to accept our consent calendar or consent agenda? Excuse me.
I move to accept.
Can I have a
Second.
Second. Roll call?
Ed McBride,
Yes.
Craig Borba,
Yes.
Juanita Garner,
Yes.
David Norgard,
Yes.
Al Jones.
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0.
Now is item 5, administrative reports. Is Nancy out there, or will someone from the staff give the Friends of the Palm Springs Library report?
Julie, would you like to do the honors? Nancy's not here, but we did just see her.
Yeah.
She's like, oh.
Sorry, I'm talking to myself. I'm like, yes. Oh, I'm muted. Sorry
I
about
can hear you through the
that.
wall.
I know. Sorry. Yes. So what Nancy reported was that they had a great book sale at the very beginning of April. It was their first in person in a few years, and they made in the mid 2000s over the course of the event, 2-day event, and then they followed up with a bag sale at the Family Fun Fest date, and they made some more money, but they've been doing really well on their in-person book sales on the shelves here in the library. And it was reported that April's was around 2,900. So they're making more money on the book sales here in the library than they have been traditional book sales that they've done annually. They also had their annual meeting on Sunday, May 1st. They had about 80 people attend with author Stephen Rowley there. He was a great speaker. And they got a really good response there. They sold some of his books at the event as well. And they did a raffle. So they were able to raise some funds at the event and had a good annual meeting. They were dark in May, but they will be meeting again in June where they'll be electing officers. Nancy also let us know that they had 2 long-term board members that have termed out and are leaving the board. One is Richard Ellis, who was the vice president and also was the main person in charge of book sales. So he's been training lots of different volunteers. And he clearly told the board that although he's not going to continue on the board, he is going to continue. He's not leaving. He's going to continue being involved in the book sales. So that's great news. And then the other was Chris Seidel, who was past president, has been on the board for many years. And again, he said he's not going anywhere, that he'll still be involved with the Friends. He's just not going to be serving on the board anymore. So the Friends are interviewing some new board candidates. And like I said, they'll be electing officers at their June meeting.
Thank you, Julie. Any questions for Julie?
Thank you.
That was a great event, Julie. Great event.
Thank you.
The foundation is going to be in the majority of our agenda tonight. So unless David wants to say something here, I think we probably could skip that one and let David do his report in a few minutes, if that's okay.
It's okay with me.
Okay. Genie, library staff report.
Okay, a couple of you heard everything I'm about to say because we just met with the foundation. So the Family Fun Fest was a huge success for us. So all the organizations who participated and all the people who came out and attended, and my staff, we had such a great time. We had over 500 people attend and about 30 organizations who set up their booths at the Palm Springs Baseball Stadium next door. So we've been on hiatus for 2 years because of the pandemic. So we were happy to be back. It was a great event. Summer reading is coming and it starts June 6th and runs through July 16th. It's open to all ages. It's a 6-week program for children and teens. For every week that you check in, you get a free book. So there's we want you to read and record your reading, but we want people to have books, and especially children. And so as adults, you come in and you'll get a book voucher, which is good for a free book in our used book sale with the Friends. So the Friends of the Library have been very generous with us for summer reading. They're sponsoring the books, they're sponsoring the grand prizes, except for sustainability has also jumped in. They do every year and they're so great to us. And they're buying the bicycles because movement is great. And the library is a very sustainable part of our community, and we're all good partners, and they're always supportive of us. So summer reading, we're going to have in-person programs in the library. We're just going to have a great time, and we've got lots of things. The theme is Read Beyond the Beaten Path. And it's we're taking a camping theme to our program. So grand prize, you could win a tent, you could win an annual, for adults, you could win a tent, you could win an annual pass to the tram. We've got a virtual reality device, like an Oculus. It's not an Oculus, but it's like that for teens. And we've got a Nintendo Switch for kids and some other grand prizes. So again, so much fun. Summer reading. We have so many people come in. It's a great program. And we encourage you to participate. Yes, great.
Jeannie, is Anderson Foundation helping with funding at all this summer?
We didn't apply this year because we still have books left over from last year. I mean, 2 years ago, actually. So they've supported us in the past, and we've had some really great grants from them who they did help us buy the books. So, but we've still got leftover books. And then we did have to do a small order this year to kind of balance out the grades, because we give grade level specific books for the children. And so we had to order a few of certain grades. And so the friends paid for those. So we skipped the grant application this year.
Great.
For them, but that's a good question.
Okay.
I have great news. We are going to get a new Parks and Rec director, and she starts June 27th. That's my response right there. I'm so happy. And she comes from San Diego. And so it's going to be a great fit for Palm Springs. And we look forward to her starting her new job. The library is an election voter assistance center starting June 4th. So June 4th through June 7th, you can come to the library. There are other locations around town and around the county. You can come to the library and get assistance. Let's say you spoiled your ballot, you didn't get a ballot, something went wrong. You can come and get help right here at the library, June 4th through the 7th. Information is available on voteinfo.net. I encourage you to look at that. You can drop off your ballots now at City Hall and James O. Jesse Desert Highland Unity Center. And then towards the end of May, Demuth Community Center will have a drop-off location and voter assistance center also. So just ask if you need help with that. We will be closed for Memorial Day, May 30th. We will be closed to celebrate Juneteenth on June 20th, and we will be closed on July 4th to celebrate Independence Day. I wanted to let you know about those holidays. The library will be closed. I don't know if I mentioned this in the past, but we have received a grant for Zip Books. Did I tell you about Zip Books? I might have. We received a $10,000 grant from the California State Library. And ZipBooks is kind of an alternative to Interlibrary Loan. It speeds up the process and gets the items directly to the people without a lot of intervention. So we have a form, a link on our website, palmspringslibrary.org, and you can go to the ZipBooks page and fill out an application. The scenario is if it's for books and audiobooks on CD, we have to not own the item or it can't be on order, and we'll check, we'll make sure if we own it or not. We only have about $3,000 left and the grant program ends June 30th. So either we'll run out of money or the program will end June 30th. But we ordered the books and they're sent Amazon Prime to your house. So you'll get them in 2 or 3 days. And then you read the book and then return it to us and we'll add it to the library collection. So it's a lot of fun. We've ordered over 200 books so far and encourage people to participate in that program. Just for trustees, City Council is having a study session and joint meeting with boards and commissions. So you're invited June 21st at the Convention Center at 5:30. They will have a joint meeting with all of the boards and commissions and City Council at the Convention Center. And I'm sure more information will be made publicly available when it gets closer to that date. But I want you to save the date, please, because they want to talk about boards and commissions with our boards and commissioners. So that's my report.
And you think that meeting on the 21st will be at 5:30?
I think so. It should be.
And you'll send more information when you have it.
Oh yeah, there'll be more information when we get closer to that date. But mark your calendars.
Doing it right now. Okay, any questions for Genie? All right, thank you, Genie.
Thank you.
Item number 6, our treasurer's report. Treasurer Jones.
Yes, I had a chance to talk with Genie earlier. It's on page 12 of your handout. That's the balance sheet. There's nothing unusual, unless anybody found anything they had questions about. Genie and I talked briefly earlier, and it's just pretty straightforward.
So does it seem like, Genie, the reporting is now starting to level out and it's starting to get back to normal after the system migration?
It is, it's still like reading a foreign language sometimes, but
Yeah.
making better headways and understanding it. And it is really a good system, and it looks like the finance department's doing a good job of recording our transactions in a timely manner. You know, we're doing great. So I think your bottom line, your fund balance is $1,867,747.75.
And according to and by the way, everyone, we just had a foundation board meeting prior to this meeting this afternoon. And I think that based on what we heard from the treasurer there, the balance on the notes receivable is 48,000, Jeannie.
Yeah, it just, there's a lag in the deposits
Okay.
in these reports.
Okay. Any questions on the trust fund or the balance? Anything that you guys can think of?
Yeah, just what are we getting on our return now, since we've been with this new investment company for almost a year now?
Yeah.
Do we know what our annual?
I don't know, but I could inquire with the finance department. And the economy
I'd appreciate that. Thank
really
you.
volatile right now, and I know the market's not so hot.
Yes, it is.
All over the place. I'll ask for you.
It's a good question.
All right, thank you.
So I move adoption or acceptance.
I have a second.
Yeah, I'll second.
Roll call, please.
Ed McBride,
Yes.
Craig Borba,
Yes.
Juanita Garner,
Yes.
David Norgard,
Yes.
Al Jones.
Yes.
Motion is accepted, 5-0.
So agenda item 7A is the annual report and discussion around the foundation. And I think that we currently have David Sibley, the president, and Bill Wiley, who is chair of the finance committee. I hope that's correct, Bill. They're going to join us and present their annual report. Jeannie sent that out to all of you in email just before the meeting started. So I don't know if you've had a chance to check your personal email. I think it would be important for you to grab those reports and read along. So I'm going to turn it over to David. Are you good? You and Bill going to join us at this point?
Let them, yes, they're in. And Bill, do you want me to make you a co-host so you can share?
I don't really know how to.
There he is.
How about if you want, I could just put the presentation on the screen and advance the slides for you.
That would be helpful. Thank you.
Okay, I'll be like the Vanna White. One moment. Let me figure out.
Next letter.
Do you want me to, oh, wait, I am not muted. Do you want me to do the PowerPoint first, or did you want to give you want to talk about the other two documents? Which order?
David, I think annual report goes first, or?
Yeah, well, according to the agenda, the annual report goes first.
Yeah.
So it's not going to take me very long to go through it. So let's do that, and then we can kind of jump into the nuts and bolts of our big discussion. And I want to apologize. I'm going to skip the first page of the annual report.
Okay, 1 minute.
And go to the update, and there's a mistake, and I'm sorry and embarrassed. But as of this report, the Palm Springs Public Library Foundation has repaid $58,000 on the loan, not $10,000, which we're quite proud of. We borrowed $100,000 and we paid almost the whole thing back. I think the best thing for me to do is just kind of go through this quickly, because we're going to kind of go through everything again with the PowerPoint presentation. We have revised our strategic plan for 2022, 2025, and we have done some things that are important for everyone to know. We have organized our finances, and we have an investment account with Edward Jones, and we started an endowment with $30,000. Which allows us to accept donations of any kind of stocks and cash. We didn't have a place to put that money before except our checking account, but now we do. We also have sent out, since COVID, we've sent out a year-end giving letter. This year we raised approximately $13,000 from that annual giving letter, which is just a general fund a general ask. The money isn't for anything specific. It just goes into our kind of general fund. We have kind of restructured the board. The nominating committee was restructured, and we brought on one new member, and we're currently interviewing 3 highly qualified candidates for the board. I'm going to skip the request for consideration paragraph and go to activities. And just tell you a couple of the highlights. We did participate in the One PS Community Expo and Picnic. Our goal there was to expand our donor or our mailing list. We gave away, I think it was $100 Visa gift card, and I think we got about 50 names that we added to our address or to our mailing list. It was a great opportunity for us to get some exposure. I think, I don't know, Genie knows the number, but I don't know, a lot of people came. We also participated in the Palm Springs Family Fun Fest, which was
I think
family
about
fest.
I think about 1,500 came to the picnic, if I'm right, if I remember.
Okay, and I think 500 people came to the Fun Fest, where we had a wheel that we spun for prizes. It was amazing how some people did know us, some people had no idea who we were, but it was great for exposure. And then marketing brand awareness, we have been in consultation with the Jones Agency, and that's Frank Jones, who publishes Palm Springs Life, who is kind of at the ready to help us with our brand awareness campaign that we're going to talk about in a minute. But overall, what I'd like you to get from this annual report is that we're really strong. We did get a bequest from an individual in the resident of Palm Springs for about $106,000 that was unrestricted. We obviously haven't spent any of that. What I'm trying to say is we have our ducks in a row. The board is strong. You know, a couple of years ago, we gave this report and there were 2 of us on the board and we didn't have any money and we didn't know what we were doing. We have a strategic plan in place. We're growing the board. Our money's organized, and I'm hopeful and excited about the direction we're headed. And that concludes my report.
Any questions for this part of the report for David? Yes. Trustee Norberg.
So David, at this present time, how much the foundation, what's their fund balance?
Question? And we just had a meeting.
Yeah,
So maybe I
think it
can
was about
help.
155,000. I don't have the.
okay.
Maybe I can help a little bit, David. We have net assets of about 115,000 if you deduct the 48,000 that we owe on the promissory note to you trustees. We have about $25,000 in a mutual fund that's earmarked for the endowment, which is our first footprint on that. And then we have about another $30,000 in cash at that brokerage account to do the things that David was suggesting in accepting stock and some other things. And then the rest are in bank accounts locally in cash.
Great. Appreciate it.
So that total is what, 150?
I thought it was 151,000. I don't know what I did with that thing that David
Yeah.
Younger just gave us.
The paper said total liabilities and equity $152,830.26. And if you subtract your liabilities, you're at 104,830.26.
Down from last year. Trustee Norgard, you had a question.
Yes, thanks. I'm interested to hear what you would consider to be the ideal size of the board you eventually want to arrive at. And secondly, in relation to that, what's the sort of composite profile of the kind of board members you're now seeking?
The ultimate end goal is to have 24 members on the board. And we have developed a matrix for who we want on the board. And I don't have it in front of me, but it would be a makeup that represents the population of Palm Springs. We want it to be diverse in terms of ethnically and age-wise. And then we want to have people that are, maybe that have experience fundraising or experience as an attorney or an experience with public relations, just so that we have a broad base of people that have feelers in the community, because we need to reach a lot of people, because we need to raise a lot of money.
Thanks, David.
So David, following that thread, because it's been a long time since we've had a conversation like this with the board, can you pull out the current membership list of the board, not to go into names unless you want to, but maybe you can share with us some of the additions over the last year and some of the skills that they have brought to the board that you've already seen help you achieve some of these goals.
Yeah.
You could start with Mr. Wiley, since he's looking at us right now.
Well, Bill, why don't you tell us about your background?
Well, I primarily was in sales and marketing and business development, and I was in telecommunications and healthcare, two different kind of industries, one not for profit and one for profit. And so, I have a lot of background in sales, marketing, and that kind of thing. But I also have an MBA, so I have an understanding of, the finances and so forth. And I've sat on, I was the president of my condominium board in Westchester County, New York, and sat on another board in Chicago when I was there. And I was in a sort of a civic organization in Grand Rapids, Michigan as well. The Downtown Alliance is what it was called. So that's more or less my not-for-profit background. And I have English degree, a BA in English and an MA in English as well. And so this is where my love for reading and books and libraries and so forth emanates from. So there was a strong desire on my part to join the board because I was reading about the fact that the city was very interested in creating a new or renewed main library, and I thought that was great. I had joined the Friends of the Library, and my wife and I had, when we retired, we were able to spend 6, 7, 8 months there now, and so I thought, well, let's apply, and I got a letter from Nancy Morrison and at the Friends, and she said that David was looking for people to join, and so I raised my hand, and Ed, you recall, we had the interview. So I'm very happy to be on the board. I think there's, as David Sidley mentioned, a lot of spade work that was done by David and Ed and Genie, frankly, and now we're really starting to constitute some critical mass here that is gonna enable us to do some things. And that's why we're coming to you now, because we think we're at a very, very good spot with what's happening at the city level, the Measure J stuff, and we just need, and the recruiting that's going on. And I think the other member, David Sidley, is Joel Preston. Joel has a fundraising background. Robin Metzler, who's in charge of the nominating committee, has an HR background. So we're getting people, and David slotting them in the spots where their backgrounds could enhance the synergy on the board. So hopefully that wasn't too verbose.
And the categories that we're looking to fill, people, I found our matrix. And let me tell you this, there was a time when if someone could, fog a mirror, they could be on our board. But since we've developed this matrix, we're looking for people that have experienced fundraising in corporate America, finance, media, human resources, marketing or PR, event planning, legal, community volunteer, political, cultural, or foundation board experience. And as we go, we kind of fill this matrix out and see who we need, so that when we're interviewing people, we want to know, if they have any kind of experience that will help the board, because we have a lot of work to do, and we don't want we don't want any dead weight, to be totally honest with you. And our newest board member has a ton of community organizing experience, and he actually helped start the Desert AIDS Project back in the 80s. So he has a ton of organizational experience, and we're really excited to have him on the board.
So looking ahead, David, can you share with us, I know you have an active pipeline of community leaders.
I'm so sorry, Ed, I can't hear you.
Can barely hear you, Ed.
Yeah.
Because I've got my agenda in front of my microphone. Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. So David, looking ahead at the pipeline of potential board members and community leaders that you guys have identified, I have to say, guys, from my experience of working on the nominating committee, we now have Robin Meltzer in charge of it, and she is just popping the whip. I mean, she has gone out and met so many people already, and she's asking anybody who's on the board, who do you know that meets this criteria? So the board has really grown, but I think the pipeline, for example, from my perspective, I'm reaching out to fellow business leaders and business owners in the community, because that's what I am. I'm actually talking to a former trustee who is very well known in our community. So I think that we should be very confident that even though the board has made quite a lot of stride of the last year, I think a year from now, or even the next 6 months or a month or two, it's going to even be stronger and starting to prepare themselves. And I mean, I don't want to call out names, but I can promise you that you guys know the people on this list that we're talking to. And there's great interest in becoming a part of this organization.
Ed, I did forget to mention too that in developing our new strategic plan, Peter Pearson, who is part of Library Strategies, volunteered to assist our nominating committee. And that has been incredibly valuable and helpful to us. And I would agree with Ed, our pipeline of people that we're talking to now is very exciting and diverse and young, and it's going to be great. It's really exciting.
And I think that it's not uncommon in our community right now. Today at the meeting, Joel Preston, whom I'm very impressed with. Joel comes with 30+ years of doing nothing but fundraising. So he presented today an organization chart of how we're going to go out and get that money that we need to build this buildings, which I was so impressed with. But more importantly, he's already done the research and found out that there's only 3 other capital campaign projects in the community going on right now. That's the kind of intelligence we need to know about as this group goes forward to raise money for us. He's already scoped out how much they're looking for. He's already scoped out who they're approaching. So that's all important whenever you kick off a capital campaign and you start looking at where the money will be found. And then translating it down to these are the goals, by phase. I've just been so impressed with his contribution already. He reminded us that he's holding this position interim, and interim is short term, but I think he knows himself that it's not going to be short term for him. So I think that he's really he's helped us a lot at the foundation.
We met with him a couple weeks ago about that presentation, and it was it's awesome. It's so exciting to have him on the board.
Yeah, and I guess you all know Nancy Morrison represents the Friends, the the foundation decided some time ago that it was important to have Nancy or the president of the Friends be represented on the foundation board, which I think has also made a great contribution representing the Friends. So, and we have to remind ourselves, like this group here, everyone that we're talking to, they're members of our community. They're fellow citizens of Palm Springs and in some cases the Valley. So these are all people that are just as committed to making this library the best library in the world for Palm Springs, because we all live here. You know, it's important to all of us. So I think that, and remember, we've got the Save the Plaza Theater, which is a huge attention getter right now. So we're watching that, or the board is watching that to make sure we have no conflict there. As a matter of fact, we hope we're going to learn from them. We've made contact with a couple of their board members who say, I'm busy right now, but when the time comes to the library, I'm interested in helping you guys as well, which I think is great too. So yeah, can you guys think of any questions or thoughts? By the way, if you know somebody, I'm pretty sure that you can send those names along to David, because we are in a growth mode and trying to hit that goal of members. So if you know of anybody. And I'm going to talk about the second board representation as we get to near the end of our agenda. So you guys know I represent the trustees. Juanita was doing that, but she was having conflict, so she has asked to be replaced. So I have a replacement to announce to the board. But any questions for David or for Bill at this point before we go into the next presentation? So I'd like to kick off this next presentation, even though I know it's out of order. You guys weren't expecting this, but I want to say to this board that we have talked most recently at our last meeting, quite frankly, if you guys will recall, when we learned the news of we thought we were free to invest money, only to find out that no, we can't invest money. And the restrictions that were handed down to us from the city attorney. I think that we did discuss that we have a viable option. And I want to remind everyone that the Library Foundation was started by the Board of Trustees. We can't forget that. And the trustees before us made that decision because they felt like the time was going to come pretty quickly when we were going to need a new library, and what better way than to have our own foundation to do that for us. And so there was a commitment made by giving them money to get started, a group of people. And to also, we just need to remind ourselves that this is our fundraising arm that we created so many years ago. So, you know, with that, the foundation has been working with industry professionals to find out the best way of going about that. And so they have shared with us now what they would like to, they feel like they were, and I agree, you've reported on where you are right now, but what's the next steps? And so there's been a lot of discussion at this board to talk about that. And I think it's kind of coming together at the same time based on our previous discussions. So now I'd like for David and Bill to walk us through what they see as what's the next steps for them.
Great, thanks, Ed. And Jeannie, if you want to put up the slide show there. Okay, thank you very much. So we really appreciate the opportunity to address you at your meeting this evening. Lots of discussion going on the last couple of days, and a lot of exciting things going on. So we do have a request for support that will come at the end. Go ahead and hit the next slide, Jeannie. You'll be embarrassed, but that's okay. So something that Genie said in a press release in December, it just resonated with me and a number of others on the board. Connecting people to information is what the library is all about. And when you look at technology and, you know, the way people use libraries now and use the resources, I think this becomes more and more true every day. Okay, next one, Jeannie, please. So by means of an agenda, we can talk about the recent history. We've talked about a number of aspects, so I won't belabor that. We've identified our issues and opportunities, and we've established a direction. And now we're coming to you to ask or to expand upon how the trustees could help us. And it's primarily a financial assistance and support. Next. So not to belabor things, but this, and everybody's talking about inflection points. There's been a lot of those the last couple, 3 years. But in point of fact, we recognize that the demographics of our city is changing a little bit, and we have more full-time residents coming in because of the relative affordability of our community versus some others in Southern California, and because of remote working opportunities and these kinds of things. But we still have to remember that there's a significant percentage of our community that can be economically challenged and doesn't have the access to a lot of privileges that others do. And they certainly count on the library for supplementing their inability to maybe purchase their own devices or, invoke a job career coach or someone like that. And these are the kind of things that the library has been really strong on that I've seen, especially over the last couple of years in the pandemic. And certainly libraries are themselves changing, and virtual access is much more prominent now, although the stacks are still there and the physical building is there and people use that. But it's interesting because they come in to use the computers, and they come and they're accessing lots of resources that Genie and her staff provide remotely. And so anyway, those are two big trends that we see in the community. So if you go to the next one, Genie, that would be good. And then of course, the city direction has really changed. All of us recall the budget concerns in 2020 and the anxiety that the pandemic created prior to a vaccine being available. And now I read in the Desert Sun that the city has a surplus, and they're looking for a means by which they can put that money to work because you don't always have a surplus situation. And as I mentioned before, the idea of a new or reimagined library, has been on the planning boards for quite some time, and how the city approaches that is of great interest. And I think we're going to get some decisions here, it seems like, fairly soon. We just talked amongst ourselves about all the latent energy and support for something different with the library. We just talked about that so many people want to be engaged in this endeavor, and as it takes shape, and that we think the foundation, as Ed well said, can play a role in channeling the energy in the community towards the long-term benefit of the library. Okay, next. I don't have to belabor this. The board composition, David, and David Engen's our treasurer. Robin Meltzer, as we said, she used to be on development. Now she's on the nominating committee. And you can see that we've got 10 board members there, plus Genie and Julie, and we want to grow that out to 24, 25. Okay, next, please. Recently, we did put in some financial structures. We have a statement of direction on investments and the endowment. We have policy statements that we drafted and shared and adopted as a board. We went through a selection process last summer and identified Edward Jones as our financial advisor. I put an asterisk there because the person that represented that firm has now left Edward Jones and gone out on his own. But for the time being, Jones is our advisor. And I think down the road, we can look at other opportunities potentially. But we need not do that right now. And then, as we also mentioned, we've made an initial endowment investment just to put a toe in the water and identify that as our two-pronged approach, which is essentially capital campaigns being one leg of the stool, and then the other being creating a endowment for financial support in perpetuity. Next, please. Treasury and administration, we have a database. It's called Bloomerang. We can track multiple individuals and how much they've given, when they gave, what programs induced them to provide the donation, and we can populate those as we go along. I think that's going to be more and more powerful as we get more and more people into that database. We have Quicken tools for our income statement and balance sheets, and then we just talked about our net assets. That's probably a little high right now because of the valuations in the stock market and some bills that we paid recently. And then fundraising, we have that standing committee. We've done an annual drive for 2 years. David mentioned the major bequest that we received, and the PR firm, the Jones Agency. The hotspot contribution is something that seems like on a small scale, but what Genie did was organize remote Wi-Fi access capabilities, and she's lending them out to the community, and this is amazing. And so we decided that would be one of our first donations, would be to support that kind of technology through the library. And Genie would say it's been pretty successful so far. And the board just voted to continue that when the next budget cycle for the library occurs in July. Okay, the next slide, please. So David mentioned the strategic review through library strategies, and we had 3 sessions of great interaction. We identified our issues and opportunities, and we have developed a detailed direction, and we've already started to put some of those key points in motion. If you go to the next one, we can start to kind of get into that. You know, in our discussions, we did uncover some issues that are still lingering, and some of these are clearing up a little bit, and some of them are still lingering around. But you know, there is still a little uncertainty, and the city hasn't, you know, put a stake in the ground in terms of which of these projects and how much money is going to be allocated and what's the timing going to be and so on. But much less uncertainty than 2020, I think we would all agree. Same thing with point B. You know, a lot of fundraising takes place in people's homes. They open them up, and individuals come there and are invited, and there's social interaction, and fundraising is done a lot. That's just an example of some of the ways that fundraising activities had been restricted. That's a little better right now. That environment's better. And so hopefully that goes away, but we all have to be cognizant that the pandemic may be lingering around for a while. We all felt like if we had a purpose for fundraising, we could fundraise more effectively. So when you look at the success that the Plaza Theater folks are having, you know, everybody's rallying around that building and that legacy. And so it's great that they've been successful. Again, we think fundraising for the J.C. Fry building or fundraising for a renewed main campus gives us that much more impetus and a clarity of purpose for the donors. And then, given all these issues, could we become less impacted by them? You know, is that something that we could do to become a little bit more self-sustaining and not be buffeted around as much? So our direction is, you know, let's achieve increase and participate. Let's achieve greater independence from the COVID, the city budget, the city timing, through some greater financial independence. Can we increase our membership through this re-energized nominating committee? And then we really like to participate in Measure J projects with the trustees and friends on the multi-purpose room, the J.C. Fry building upgrade, and positioning for the capital campaign for the main library, whatever occurs then. Okay, Jeannie, thanks. And, you know, the how-tos coming out of the strategy session. Let's build a donor awareness of our foundation's purpose and our role and how we donate. And again, this great work that Joel Preston has done to help us increase our understanding of the donor community. Who are the major donors that are there? Are there special purposes or special interests that some donors might respond to? Can we do outreach with financial advisors so that the library can be included in estate planning and some of these other things that we're brainstorming around already? And you know, the wherewithal to do a lot of these things is creating a stronger financial base. So how could we expand our fundraising capabilities and broaden the community awareness and facilitate those special purpose fundraisers? And that, of course, financial support and financial strength is a means to do that. So next one, please, Jeannie. So we kind of have go through a sort of a nominal timeline here. We finalized our strategy and we're kicking off our board membership drive. Tonight is the proposal to the trustees, and we have a draft of a memorandum of understanding with the city. Thank you, Ed, for that. We're here to talk about the loan payment. We've started to brainstorm our donor community profile, and we're developing our target segments. So April, May, we're in good shape as far as this timeline goes. If you go to the next one, June and July, we're going to renew our hotspot funding. We're going to be tracking the Measure J projects. We'd like to hire a fundraiser, and we're going to talk about that in a few minutes. We think we need a part-time specialist in that area to really accelerate our success. We want to initiate a awareness campaign, and we're, you know, praying and lighting candles and everything that Genie's grant is approved, and that would be a huge leap forward. Would be great. So that's June and July, and then in November, December, towards the end of the year, we will do our third annual drive. Maybe we've got the plan for J.C. Fry by then, and maybe we can start the planning for the large capital campaign. But all the other things that we talked about kicking off will be in some form of motion, certainly by then. So tonight, how can you help us do this? And you know, the point number one, we've already agreed to fund the hotspot, and we heard that the multi-purpose room is probably not going to get external funding, so maybe we want to do that together with you, the trustees, and the friends, and with Genie and her staff, and try to put something together that would be helpful and meaningful to them on that project. But the big ask tonight is for approximately $550,000. in what I'm calling enabling funds to continue our growth and to implement the direction that we just talked about. And that 50,000 is actually 48,000 now because we paid May. We wanted to use $150,000 to hire an executive director whose primary function and pretty much the 100% of the function would be as fundraiser. And that would cover for 2 years. Peter Pearson mentioned that it's a person of that quality would be about $75,000 a year. And that would give you pretty much of a half-time type of a person, maybe 20 hours a week type of a thing. Then we thought $100,000 for an awareness campaign where we could engage with our PR firm and expand our social media presence. That would also be over a 2-year period. And then $250,000 would represent sort of the seed funding for a major fundraising event over the next 2 years. And maybe we could think that that event could take place in the fall of 23. And I think we've mentioned pretty much all of these things, but I think it deserves more focus. Using those enabling funds to raise money for the J.C. Fry Building Improvement Project for the types of technology enhancements that are identified by library management, early stage funding for a reimagined main library, hopefully in conjunction with the grant and the city contribution. And then give us the ability to continue to increase the endowment for long-term financial support. So we really appreciate you listening to us today and the leadership and support that you've provided, and of course the loan that you gave back when the foundation was first started. And we hope that concrete that you see represents a new building, and we can all work on things together. And thank you again for your attention.
Thank you, Bill. Thank you, David. Fellow trustees, any questions that you might have for David or Bill at this time regarding their report or their request, any clarifications? So I mean, I think that,
I have no questions, but I have a number of comments and concerns. If it's all right with the rest of the trustees, I'd like to go bullet by bullet, just my feelings about each one of these. I really commend the foundation for being able to pay back almost a majority of the funding that we gave them. And they owe us $48,000 now. I'm in agreement of retiring that. I'm okay. I think we gave them $100,000 to start with, and they've done a great job with that. The next item is hire a part-time executive director. I'm not sure if this is the right time yet, but I also don't think the trust should fund the whole position. I'm thinking that the foundation should fund it. And maybe, pardon?
I think,
I'm sorry, I didn't
never
hear.
mind. No, that was all right.
Starts in 30 minutes.
Yeah. Okay. Okay, so that $150,000 for 2 years, I'm thinking maybe we make a $50,000 contribution to the foundation to fund that position. The $100,000 for a 2-year awareness campaign, I'm not in favor of that at all. I'm thinking a lot of the awareness campaign can be done by the different groups without costing any dollars. We also need to identify what we're going to be fundraising for. We haven't really done that yet. But I think the foundation is doing all the right things to get their name out there. And $100,000 for awareness, I think we gave the library $20,000 for their awareness. And now we're going to give the foundation $100,000. I think that's excessive. And again, I think if we relieve them of the loan from us, they have now $155,000 that they can spend on their own and decide where they want to do with the money that they've raised. And the last one, I think, is not in sync with what's going on with other nonprofits. I'm very familiar with what Mizell is doing. I'm very familiar with the Boys and Girls Club are doing. They are putting on fundraisers. They've downsized. And I think Jeff Kors was a big pusher on this. He did it with Mizell. He's doing it with the Boys and Girls Club. They put on fundraisers, or there's no more galas. The only one that's doing the galas now is a DAP, and that is really it. Everybody else is downsized. When they're having a fundraiser now, it's paid for up front. And when people raise the paddles at it, that's all green money coming in. So if Boys and Girls Club can raise $150,000 without laying out any money, that's maybe what the foundation should be doing, or what other organizations should be doing. Mizell did the same thing. They sold the tables before, and everything they raised $115,000 one night with no expenditures. So the $250,000, I think it's out of touch of what's really happening in the Coachella Valley. We're not investing our money like we would do with the stock market or with mutual funds and bonds. This is giving our money away. This request is 25% of the trustees' responsibility. If we have 1.8, we're giving a quarter of it away for this request. I think it's a bit ambitious, and those are my feelings. Thank you.
Anyone else have anything they would like to add? I think that we're at a point to where, based on even our last conversation regarding the response we got from the city attorney, one of the things, Craig, that you may recall is that pretty much the city attorney said, we certainly can give money to the library foundation. Once we give that money, we pretty much can't dictate what they do with it. So I mean, I think that your comments are well-founded, but I think we have to recognize that it can't go with strings, and it can't go with this is what you can do with it. So, but I think we all agree that at some point we're going to give the foundation money. So I think that these are all things that we as a body need to discuss. So I would like to continue this item to our next meeting and dedicate some time amongst ourselves to talk about this request and to formulate a response to the foundation with how we feel about it. If it's not an approval, or it's it's some sort of response back with modifications, I think we deserve some time to think about it, because we only got this today. And I think that we need to talk amongst ourselves about what we would want to see, because we were going to give them a gift at some point. What would that gift be, and what would it be used for, I think is important. Anybody else?
Ed, if I look on the agenda, it's on the agenda 7B, it allows us to address the first bullet point.
Sure.
And if that's so, I would like to make a motion to retire that.
Point of clarification, Craig, thank you for a second. Jeannie, I don't have it here in front of me, but the opinion that we received from the city attorney, can we retire that agreement? I thought that we were not allowed to do that, but do you remember what that ruling was?
I don't think we can, Ed, is my understanding.
I don't know if you have to call it something different. You can, you could give them a gift, and I know that's one, you can't, you can give them a gift and then they can pay it off. It sounds silly, but I'm looking at the promissory in your packet.
I'm sorry, I don't have it here in front of me.
It's okay. It's on page 23 of your packet. The maturity date's July 1st of 2022. Because what happened was the last promissory note was terminated and this one was redrawn. So I don't know legally, but it seems kind of funny to give them like you could give them a gift and then they could pay you back.
Well, can we ask that Jeannie find out the answer rather, none of us really knows the
Absolutely.
answer for
Yeah.
sure. We're speculating. The better thing is to get a definitive answer.
And Craig, maybe you remember there was a discussion that when we renewed this note, we talked about the ability to forgive it at any given time. And I thought the advice we got from the city attorney is that it's in place. We can't do that. We have to have them pay it back. So I guess we probably, I think let's take a vote. If your motion could be more of, let's explore the possibility of forgiving this note and what that would look like. I think that makes more sense. And then let us go do that work so that when we get back together next month, we would have an answer or a solution on how to do that. Is that okay with you? Would you mind rephrasing that?
That's perfect. That's perfect. Because I'd like this anyhow to go away.
Can I read you the paragraph Ed, can I read the paragraph? It's section 5, the waiver. Maker hereby waives diligence, presentment, protest and demand, notice of protest, dishonor and non-payment of this instrument, and expressly agrees that without in any way affecting the liability of maker hereunder, the board may extend any maturity date or the time for payment of any installment due hereunder, except additional security, release any party liable hereunder, or release any security now or hereafter securing this promissory note.
So that means we could forgive it then.
I think you can.
I don't read that, but we could extend the payment out 100 years.
Yeah.
Next payment is due in 100 years. But yeah, I think let's just
I'll
because.
check for sure.
Yeah, so the motion before us right now is to explore the possibility of retiring the notes that we currently have between the trustees and the library foundation, and we'll discuss it at our next meeting. So can I get a second on, or I'm sorry, Craig, why don't you restate it?
That'll be my motion.
Okay,
Jeannie?
all right. Sorry, I didn't mean to talk for you, but
Okay.
can I get a second on that?
I'll
A
second that.
second. Yeah.
Roll call, please.
Okay, hold on, I'm joking. We'll watch the video to find out what the motion was.
Well, you mean to restate it?
Yeah, because I was coughing and I couldn't.
So the motion before us is to explore the possibility of retiring the current note between the Library Foundation and the Library Board of Trustees.
Okay.
So-
And then I heard Juanita Garner give the second before.
And we have a question for us. Trustee
That's correct.
Norgard, you have a question?
Yes, thank you, Ed. I just want to be clear what I'm voting on, that the motion is to explore this possibility. It is not to authorize it at this point.
That is correct. That is
Okay.
correct. That is correct.
All right, thank you.
We'll come back with a report we'll consult the city attorney who wrote this agreement to see what our options are, and then we'll vote on what those options may be at the next meeting. Does that
All right,
clarify?
thank you.
That's your
Yes.
question? Okay.
Thanks, Ed.
Trustee Gardner, did you have a question?
No,
Okay, so roll call, please.
Ed McBride,
Yes.
Craig Borba,
Yes.
Juanita Garner,
yes,
David Norgard,
Yes,
Al Jones.
Yes.
Okay. That is passed, and we will explore the possibility of retirement.
And I'll work with you, Jeannie, on that.
Extended in 100 years, it'd just be $40 a month, but you know.
Don't do that to me, please. I gotta process the checks, and it's a pain in the neck.
We'll certainly look at what that would look like. Now, our assignment then is to, you all have this presentation in your mailboxes. I think that, and Craig, clearly you've had some thought about it, but I'd like for us to come back together. We'll put this on our agenda to spend some time on it in June. And I think at that point, we owe our foundation a response to what we feel comfortable maybe doing at this time, and respond back to their requests more formally. Is that okay?
Yep, sounds good.
All right, now, in the meantime, just because I'm looking at the calendar and we'll set our date for next time, should you have questions or should you have a need for a clarification to clarify your own thoughts, please shoot those over to Jeannie and myself so that if we need to go back to the foundation board, or if we need to consult the city attorney or whatever. So please don't wait till that last meeting or the meeting in June. Let's try to have some of our questions answered before then if you have them. So just shoot them over to me and we'll have Jeannie or either I can reach out to the city attorney, of course, and copy everyone on those questions.
Yeah, send it to me to avoid violation of the Brown, and then I'll make sure to manage that, if that's okay. And
yeah. So David and Bill, thank you very much. We appreciate the time that you put into your presentation. I think it was very helpful to have an update on where the Library Foundation is at this point. I think that one of the things that Jeannie and I have been talking about is that we're in a great spot, guys, because the library seems to be the top of mind for everybody in City Hall. I think we finally have got everyone thinking that it's time to give the good old library a little bit of money. And they're even talking about some money and real figures, real folding money, as my grandma used to call it, right? So we're talking, I think that we're finally on the radar, and I want us to be ready. I think that should next fiscal year bring us some of that planning money and maybe even some money to do a project or two, we've got to be ready, and our foundation has got to be poised. So I think that we're at that point. I really do. So Jeannie's going to talk to us next about her budget proposal, and I'm going to ask her to also maybe share with what's going on with some of the discussion in city council meetings. But David, Bill, thank you very much. You're welcome to stay around and listen to the rest of the meeting, but certainly we would like for you to be at the next, if you'd like to be at the next meeting to listen, and we'll get back to you.
Thanks for the opportunity. We appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for the opportunity. And I think that Craig brought up a really interesting point about the $250,000. And I'm going to clarify for the trustees what we're going to do with that money. And he also, brought up an important point that we would have about $150,000, but we would have less than that. Actually, we wouldn't if the loan are forgiven. But if we're going to raise $10 million or so to help the city build a new library, $100,000 isn't going to be enough to do that. So we do need your help, and I appeal to you to consider our request. Thank you.
Thank you. Stay tuned. I'm sure we'll have questions. Yep.
Okay.
All right.
Thanks again. Goodbye, everybody.
Goodbye. Have a good evening.
Bye-bye.
You too.
thank you.
Jeannie.
Yes.
Talk about your budget request. This is your annual request to us for trust funds, correct?
Yes, and I have submitted my budget to the city manager's office, which then was submitted to the city council, and they're working on that. And in your packet on page 12, keep going. I'm way at the end. Page 30. I'll start a little bit earlier than that. 7C, page 26. So I wrote you a little memo to explain what I was asking for. Every year we ask for funds out of the Cropitzer Trust account, because those funds are earmarked specifically, and I included the quotation of what the money is earmarked for. It's either earmarked for a quiet reading center for senior patrons in the main library, or if this is not feasible, for the purchase of nonfiction adult books written in English. And so what we've been doing for the past several years is doing $10,000 as a supplement to our regular book budget to purchase additional nonfiction books in English. It's really been a huge help to us, and it helps us do a couple of things. Nonfiction, well, with all library collections, time is a challenge because things go out of date quickly, especially nonfiction. Any travel books, sometimes the countries stop existing, Pluto stops becoming a planet, medical information or science, it changes so quickly. So we have to keep that collection thriving, and it costs a lot of money. And so we want to keep that collection going. And so I'm asking for $10,000 for the nonfiction book collection. And then our ebook collection, as you can see I gave you some statistics. I did a statistical comparison, and I'll talk about that in a second. But basically our ebook collection since pre-pandemic, and then the last full year of data that we had was 2020, 2021. The ebook collection circulation went up 18%. And so demand for electronic books and audiobooks has really gone up. And if you would support us with $10,000 for that collection, we can actually help increase the nonfiction ebook collection, as well as just our regular ebook collection with the additional support of funds. I'm reserving the right to ask for any other money for any other projects, but right now I think that that's a good place for us to ask. And then if something does come up, we can certainly bring that to you at that time. But I think right now I want to reserve and just say I want these two funds supported, please.
So point of clarification, Jeannie. I mean, in the past, once you get a confirmation of your budget, for example, that's when you may have come back, I think in my last 6 years, and say, hey, I had asked for this, but we didn't get this, so I'd like to ask the trust fund to come up with the money for this particular, and we've done that before, right? So
right. Yeah, and I guess I didn't actually talk to you about the statistics that I included, but we ran some reports, thank you, Lisa, by collection. So if you look at pages 27, 28, 29, we have collection codes or collection departments. And if you look at those, we did pre-pandemic circulation statistics, and then we did during the pandemic. And so a lot of things really went down. So you'll see as an example, our DVD collection was our #1 circulating section at 27% of the total circulation for the library. We circulated almost 136,000 physical DVDs. During the pandemic, we didn't circulate so many because people couldn't get in and browse.
Plus streaming has become so popular.
Yes, right? Streaming people, but we, again, we serve a lot of patrons who don't have internet.
Right.
So still, and so a lot of people can't afford streaming, but during the pandemic, we were closed and they couldn't get in to get to browse or to get things, and they found alternative solutions. So that's fine. But then on page 28, 29, we combine some of those categories because we have so many types. If you look, you see there's a chunk of categories that have the word juvenile in them. So we collated that information for you into more realistic information about nonfiction, fiction, the juvenile collection, the teen collection, adult DVDs, and then ebooks. And it's just, some of it's just fascinating data for you to enjoy. The other part of that is that the ebook collection really went crazy, I think. Although it was already going crazy to begin with. Craig Borba has a question.
Yes, I don't mean to make a lot of work for you, but could we have just one more category of large print books?
They're in here.
And when we,
On
I can't find them.
27 to page 27, about that far down, about 3/4 of the way down,
Large print.
under all those.
Oh,
juvenile
got it. Thank you.
I'll
I
put
just
it in
found it.
large print for you.
Funny.
That's not very nice. The Lord don't like ugly. All right, be careful.
I was being funny. I was.
Oh,
The large print circulation really took the large print circulation took a nosedive during the pandemic. And I think it's because people couldn't get in. But
Right.
also ebooks you can adjust the font size on ebooks. And so it's been a real benefit to people who need large print. I increase my font on my ebook all the time. I've got it in a pretty large font.
We understand. I think that, in libraries, technology has always impacted the changes, right? I mean,
Yes.
we're going to see it, right? But and we just went through a 2-year epidemic, so I think that also has a huge impact.
Right. And then on pages 30 and 31, you'll see, and this is kind of a foreign language to read, like a finance report. Page 30 is what, there's an overview of what has been approved and funded in the past. And so the categories, so this is the general fund for the library. So this is our proposal for next fiscal year. And the information for next fiscal year is the furthest category to the right, where it says projection level 2. That's what we're asking for. So we've got the prior fiscal year 3 years ago, prior fiscal year 2 years ago, last fiscal year, current year actuals, current year revised budget, and then projections. So we're asking the city for a 7.9% increase in services to the library. Honestly, most of those are accounts that we don't get to spend at the library. They're facilities maintenance, salaries, insurance,
Sure.
Things like that. So our categories are really things like travel, it says travel dues, it's travel and training, materials and supplies. That's the big one, where we're asking $399,000. And then it goes down to print, which is printing and publishing for us. And then it says legal advertisement. That's actually our advertising account. So I mentioned maybe 4 accounts that we really get to work with. And this new financial system, they actually did a great benefit to the library. Our materials and supplies account used to be about 12. I see some other accounts in there, communications, some other things, but that account used to have about 12 different accounts, and they combined it all into one. Makes it a little more flexible for me, because if I have money in my DVD account, I can actually use it for my book account if I need to, but in the past I wouldn't have been able to do cross transfer that money. And then on page 31 is the Wellwood Murray Memorial Library accounts. Not a lot happening in those accounts. Some of the money, the increases for staffing for AEG and our security officers. So really, we've got a Wellwood operations account of $30,025, and that pays for all of our programming and supplies and different things there. And then our communication account, that's our internet account. So,
Jeannie, of course, I was able to hear your presentation to the Library Foundation Board, and I was going to wait till now because I'd like for you to, I don't think you mentioned this in your earlier report. Tell us a little bit about, number one, the the grant request from the state library on ebooks and how we're now participating in that and how it's taken off. And the other item is talk to us a little bit about, well, we'll talk about that first, if you don't mind.
And I'll talk, yeah, the Zip Books program.
Thank you. I'm sorry, I was trying to remember what that was called.
No, it's okay. And then the hotspots too.
Yes,
Was that the second thing?
yes, I think so.
Okay, so we received we received $10,000 from the California State Library for a program called Zip Books. And it is a program that helps supplement a little bit about, I did mention a little bit about this, supplements our interlibrary loan. So when we order books and they get shipped directly to the patriot's house through Amazon within just 2 or 3 days. And then you read the item and then return it to us. And it's been so successful. And maybe the part that I didn't mention here was that all of the participating libraries in the California Library Network, there are a lot of public libraries that participate in this program and they all run out of money. Because the program is so popular and people are loving it so much that they can just request a book and it shows up at your house and we paid for it. So it's a great program. We're almost out of money. And I'm thinking, how can we get this program again? How can we get the grant again? But the California State Library tends to issue the grant awards in the spring for this one. So it's really complicated for the rest of the year for patrons who really love this program. They don't have funding for it. And so I'm also thinking about maybe doing some alternatives, maybe asking for sponsorships or some other things for that program to maybe keep it going because it's
Jeannie, how much did you receive in the grant?
$10,000.
And that's lasted you how long?
6 weeks. With $7,000 we've spent in since about the first part of April. We've spent $7,000. So we'll probably run out
So
at the end of this month early.
So 10,000 lasts about 2 months.
Right now, everybody's loving this program. We've ordered about 200 books and for $7,000.
Okay.
So what's that? 7 divided by 200. It's about $5 a pop, but you know, we've gotten a variety of books at different values. They're not all at $35, but we probably ordered more than 200. Lisa would. I could look at the spreadsheet, but
That's
I got a few for the library collection. You know, got it. Some Eric Carl. I read them, and then I'm going to give them to the library, and then we're going to add it to the collection.
So based on the popularity of this program, once your budget is finalized, I'm assuming you have more money in your regular budget also to continue some of the support, or you don't?
We don't have money. There's no money budgeted for this Zip Books program. But that might be something in the fall or, you know, later summer.
Okay.
I might look around and maybe the Friends or Trust Fund might be interested in doing some, or maybe we'll see, maybe the California State Library listens to the library directors who are saying this is a champagne problem. It's such a good program and it's so popular. We've all run out of money.
I can imagine they won't probably come up with some more money for this. So, but you can also come back to us and ask for some money if you need it. That's clearly you're going to build the stats to support the popularity. I think it's a wave of the future. I think it's a convenience that library users have been waiting for, to be able to download their ebooks, because so many people now prefer to read that way, right?
Well, these are physical books. So these are.
I mean, for the ebooks, I'm sorry, I'm going back and forth, but.
Yeah, we're actually we're up over 320, like 325 books. We're going crazy.
so are they hardbound or paperback?
They're whatever's available. So we always shoot for hardcover if we can get it. But if it's not hardcover, we've received paperbacks too. And they,
So,
they might not be,
Okay.
they might not last very long. But somebody wanted to read it, and we'll add it to the collection. And then if it dies, then it dies.
Trustee Norgard?
thanks. To follow up on the question that Craig offered a few minutes ago. So if we're doing the math right, at the current level of popularity, this would be a $60,000 program annually.
Yeah, and we would
That
have,
fair to
actually
say?
what we would have to put some limits on it. Right now, we don't have many restrictions on this program. We would probably have to limit users to you get one, when you're finished, bring it back and we'll order you another one, kind of a thing. Because right now we're not putting limits on it, and so people are going wild.
So right now the gates are fully open, as it were.
Yeah. Yeah.
I see. Okay. Well, the reason why I ask is, I mean, I'm just curious about the sustainability of adding $60,000 for this particular program.
No, we would have to explore some restrictions and take a little bit more look at it. But right now, I'm not asking you for any money for this, but it's very successful and people really love it. And it's popular all over California, because we were on a Zoom with other library directors, and they were like, we ran out of money right away. We're done, and then the patrons are crying because they can't get them. But
It's such a no-brainer. And I mean, whoever thought of this program with the state library, finally somebody woke up there in Sacramento and had a great idea. I mean, they've had a lot of great ideas, don't get me wrong. But I mean, I can remember when libraries used to see Amazon as a threat. Now they're seeing it as a leverage, right? So it as an enhancement. I think that's a great idea, right?
One thing what was I going to say about it? Oh, well, what I was going to say was the original intent was for rural libraries out there, way out in, Inyo County, Yolo County, the small town libraries who don't have a good courier system, or they're not in a good network where they could borrow stuff from neighboring branches. And for us, Interlibrary Loan, we charge a patron $5 for an interlibrary loan. This is a loan where we would send out a nationwide request. A library in another state, wherever, would find the request, say, oh, we have that item. They would package it up and mail it to us through library rate mail. It get here like 2 weeks later. We create a record, check it out to the patron. They read it, they bring it back, we mail it back 2 weeks later. This is like a 2-month process for a book that was probably just like a paperback in a series that somebody wanted to read. And we could order it, we could have it to them in 2 days. And so the staff time, the mailing time, the whole everything, it's just faster. Let's just buy it for the person. They create it, and then we can add it to our collection, or not, but our goal is to add them to the collection. But we follow a collection development policy. If it's something that's not appropriate, as far as for our library collection, as an example, if it's too costly, somebody requested a book that was really old, like a 1970s book, and it was paperback and used on Amazon. And we said no, because it didn't meet our collection development criteria. We're not going to order, we wouldn't buy that for the library because it was just not relevant to our collection. It's just too obscure for our popular, public library collection. So we do have some restrictions. We've turned down quite a few items. A lot of them are just because we already own it, or it's on order. We actually thought we needed it too, and so we ordered it from our vendor on the way. Or we couldn't find it, not available. If they request something and it's just not available, and we're not buying used, because I think we got burned a couple of times. We bought some stuff and it was like withdrawn library books, and they were terrible shape, and we couldn't add that to our collection. So we made a rule, we're not buying anything used.
Trustee Norgard, do you have a question?
So I just want to make sure I understand what you're proposing here or requesting, Jeannie, is found on page 26, right? So there are two separate requests, in fact. One is for nonfiction books, is that correct?
Yes.
10,000, and the other is for additional ebooks for 10,000
Correct.
from the trust fund. Okay, I move.
We have a second.
I second.
Trustee Jones, I think I saw him second first.
I did. I seconded it.
So roll call, please.
Okay, Ed McBride,
Yes.
Craig Borba,
Yes.
Juanita Garner,
Yes.
David Norgard,
Yes.
Al Jones.
Yes.
It's for $20,000 for the library budget, 10,000 for from the Cropitzer Trust for nonfiction books, and 10,000 for ebooks out of the regular future library project account.
And as always, you reserve the right to come back and ask for things as you need them. So
As always.
this isn't the final discussion around this. It's what the money is for. So, okay.
Thank you very much.
Let's move to D, and that's your fee schedule. Do you have enough time to go through this, or is this something you need to continue, or where?
No, it's just informational. I'll just do it real quickly. I wanted to make sure that you are aware that the city, you really don't have any input in this, but the city, I wanted you to be aware of it. The city every year looks at the comprehensive fee schedule or the consumer price index and sets the city's fees. At the time of this writing, it was 7.5%, but then they did go to council and approve 6.9%. So the numbers will change a little bit, but I just wanted you to be aware of that. So no action is necessary on that item.
Well, I guess, Jeannie, is there anything that stands out as being either a huge increase? I see all your eliminations. I assume all these crosses are things that you're no longer going to charge, right? So they're coming
No,
off.
actually, honestly, what happened was we just, we tried to clean up the language and
Okay.
some of the items, like microfiche. We didn't need a separate line for microfiche. We just put it with the microfilm line. So save some space. Some of these are just space savers. One thing we wanted to make sure that we took out the word setup fee and change it to a processing fee, because we didn't want to give the perception that we were going to set up a room for somebody, like physical tables and chairs. So it's just a paperwork fee. And then our fees changed a little bit on the some of these different rates because I'm looking at Wellwood. Wellwood, we were open 12 hours a day. So a full day was a 12-hour cost. So we changed it to an 8-hour cost. So there was a reduction there. But really nothing major significance here.
This doesn't require a vote on it from us. It's just
No.
awareness for us.
No, I just wanted you to be aware. What? 1 second. Let's see what she says. Hold on just a second. Oh, yeah. No, no, nothing to on there. And then, okay, I have 2 more things. Just want to make sure. Oh, 3 more things.
3 more things.
No, just separate for number 8, item 8.
Okay. Thank you. So for item 8, I also have something, as I mentioned earlier, Trustee Gardner expressed to me that she was unable to meet the foundation meetings, and she's our other representative because of her work schedule. I have asked, and Trustee Jones has agreed to take her place on the Library Foundation Board. So I'm going to name him to that position going forward. And from there, Trustee Norgard, you have a question? You had your hand up. You're on mute.
Yeah, sorry. I'm sorry to go backwards here, Ed.
No, not at
I
all.
apologize. I just want to make note of what our own bylaws say. In Article 7, Section 1, Part C, the the library board shall establish, amend, and periodically review all library fines, fees, and charges, ensuring that they are incorporated into the city's master schedule. So my question in quoting that is, how did we come about these that are in front of us now?
Excellent question.
It
But
seems like the
city's
process worked in reverse. And it seems like we should be proposing to this council, not the other way around.
yeah.
That's not quite how it works, but good thought.
Well,
No,
I
I know,
understand that's not how it did work, but that's how it is supposed to work according to what the bylaws state and which have been accepted by the council.
You're correct. It does. I mean, you're reading it and it says that I know that on the library policies, we do have you review and do the library policies, the fees. And Julie, maybe if you know anything about historically how the fees were set, but I know for us, the city did the fee study a few years ago. And they always tend to set the fee. So, is that what you?
Yes, yeah, so just historically, so the administration fee, so when the library had like, as Jeannie was saying in our admin manual, policy manual, we would bring those to you and we did propose different things over the years and things were changed. Always with the room rentals and things like that, because I guess it was city property buildings that they always dictated those. And we actually didn't have changes for a while, and then they did this, as Jeannie was saying, this study where they reviewed all of the different city buildings and all of the different room rentals and things like that. And they proposed that. And then they just started doing this the last few years where they were tying it to the index. And so that kind of was like a new thing, like about 4 or 5 years ago, and then they just started doing it. Yeah, but that's kind of the history of it, if you will.
Excuse me for interrupting, Ed. I need to ring off. I apologize. Because of that eye appointment, I had to reschedule another meeting that I was leading. I thought we'd be done by 7:15. I do apologize to everybody for that. It just today got messed up when I had to go to the emergency on that eye. So
you'll see the minutes, of course, when we set the next meeting.
yes, right,
Thank you very much.
perfect. Thank you all.
So Trustee Norwood, you make excellent
David?
points.
Yeah. I'm thinking, David, with the point you brought up, we maybe should vote on this thing before us.
I believe we should.
You can if you.
Yeah, and yeah, I think we probably should stay close to our policies, as close as we can. So with this, it's on the agenda as an item to vote on. So I move that we accept these new terms and fees.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
So discussion for a second. So I agree that we probably should vote on these. I guess the other question is, Jeannie, if the city is saying that, the policy, our bylaws might say this, but the real policy is we're going to set the fees and we're happy to have you review them and you can vote on them, but you really have no input into these because they're based on all the other formulas they use when establishing fees across all city services, is what I think I heard you say, right? So
Yeah, I think that's true. And I can certainly discuss it with my assistant city manager, and it may be that your bylaws might have to change if that's not really the true role. If you're merely really advisory, and what if you didn't agree with these fees? There's really not much you could do.
That's my point. That's my point. So I think you do need to discuss it with the assistant city manager and come back with us with some sort of is this just the way that, is this an ordinance? Is this just the way this, because I imagine it might be a city ordinance, but this is how the city operates. And so our bylaws are clearly in conflict and we need to resolve that. So
Yes,
with
they
that,
had a public hearing
what I thought.
12th. So it was a public hearing and it was resolved and there was a resolution already accepted.
And it's not just us, it's every city service, right? So it's across the entire city spectrum.
You're in a unique situation because you used to be an administrative board,
Correct.
but everything transitioned really to advisory, but some of the bylaws and rules stuck.
Sure. All right, so with that,
You have a motion and a second on the
we do.
floor.
So any more discussion before we vote?
I would appreciate the clarification that you might be able to provide us after a conversation with
Yeah, I agree.
the official.
Thank you. Roll call, please.
Ed McBride,
Yes.
Craig Borba,
Yes.
Juanita Garner,
Yes.
David Norgard,
Yeah, yes.
and Al Jones left the meeting.
You said you had two more things, Jeannie?
4-0. One of them was you're appointing Al to the foundation board.
Right.
Did you do that?
Yes, I did. I'm sorry.
I was writing, and then a meeting date for June. We're supposed to do June 1st. Is that still the date you want?
And everyone, I so apologize for messing up this meeting, but I was out of the country for the first 2 weeks of the month. I think given the fact that we need to respond back to the Library Foundation, if we stick with our regular scheduled meeting, which would be the 2nd of June, right?
First,
1st of June.
Oh, I'm sorry, the 1st of June being Wednesday, excuse me. That doesn't give us much time. I'm wondering if we could push back a week to the 8th. Did that cause anybody any concern, or is everyone gonna be around?
I would actually prefer that, but I can make
I
you.
have to,
Craig,
go check my calendar.
okay. Juanita, how about you? Any concern? You're okay? All right, let's see what Craig says. So how about you, Jeannie? I mean, are you around then?
Yeah, it's good for me. I think it's better than June 1st because June 1st is that concert with the downtown.
Now also, Jeannie,
Would this be on
historically,
Zoom?
historically,
Yes, it'll be on Zoom.
we have been dark for August. And have we been dark for July, or is it just August?
Just August.
Okay. Because July is the
Whatever.
first meeting of the new fiscal year, right?
July, yes.
Yeah.
July 6th. So yeah, Julie.
Jeannie,
Go ahead.
the next meeting coming up is a hybrid meeting, so some can be there and some can Zoom it. Is that correct?
Well, I have the Craig Borba room ready. You can come to the library, set you up on Zoom, but yeah, we're still meeting on Zoom.
So is
Okay,
that-
Ed, I can work the 8th.
All right, thank you. So let's set our meeting for the 8th, and at that meeting, of course, we'll work on our response to the Library Foundation report and request we received this evening. We'll keep our regular agenda, but I think that we'll focus on our response to them. I will note that will be my last official meeting because I will rotate off at the end of this fiscal year. Jeannie is asking the city if I may stay until the position is filled, which we have done in the past, just because of the critical point where we're at with some of the things we're working on. But I am prepared for that to be my last meeting. So just so all of you know. And then the first meeting of July will be where you will reconstitute, maybe with a replacement and re-elect officers and start all over.
So at the June meeting, I think we need to do a nominating committee.
Sure. I'll put that on the agenda for me to name a nominating committee.
Can we discuss the July date, meeting of the date of the July meeting
Sure.
at the June meeting also?
Well, that's a good point because we're talking about a holiday. Well, no, the July meeting would be on the 6th. If we
But it
keep-
is that week of July 4th.
Yeah, it's keeping with that first week of July of the that first Wednesday of the month. That's always a hard week because people take time off.
Right, exactly. Yeah. I
Yeah.
know that I'll be out of town.
Okay, so we certainly can look at it and then you guys can decide, at that meeting. So we'll have a nominating committee and we'll look at the July meeting on the agenda as well, Jeannie, okay?
Yeah, July 13th works really well for me, I think, but yeah,
Well, it might work great for me, but I won't be here. So
maybe.
maybe, we'll see.
But
Okay.
if they extend your time, you will be there, right,
I
Ed?
will be there, right? That's correct. So with
Okay.
that, I once again, everyone, I appreciate your service. I appreciate your time. I think that we're in store for some really fun times this next fiscal year and seeing some of our work come to fruition. So with that, we'll conclude this meeting and I have on my clock 7:22. Jeannie, is that what you have?
Yeah, 7:22.
All right.
Everybody.
All of you have a great evening and we'll talk to you very soon. Thank you.